Alright, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're going to be previewing the 2025 NBA Finals between the Thunder and Pacers. It starts tomorrow. Very excited for it. We're going to preview everything about this matchup here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications to all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. We upset a lot. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're so close. We're like right there to 1,000. So all support on channel, very much appreciated. Link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't want to see any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So the Thunder and Pacers will be our 2025 NBA Finals. The Thunder winning the Western Conference. They swept the Grizzlies, took out Denver in 7, beat Minnesota in 5. Maybe have been the most dominant team so far, and they're here. While the Pacers took out the Bucks in 5, the top-seeded Cavs in 5, the Knicks in 6, and now they're in the NBA Finals. What should be a kind of interesting series, you know? I know a lot of maybe the talk around it and the media around it is going to be like, these are two small market teams, you know? A lot of people predicting OKC is going to be able to run away with this and all that stuff. Maybe people aren't as excited as usual, but it's the NBA Finals, you know, and these two teams deserve to be here. You watch the entirety of the postseason. The Thunder and the Pacers have been the best team in their respective conferences, and they're supposed to be here in this NBA Finals matchup. And I'm, for one, very excited for it. But I know a lot of people, you know, for some reason don't like, you know, have always find a way to complain about the NBA basketball and all that stuff. I'm not here to do that because I'm very excited for this matchup. Now let's really get into the basketball of it. Looking at different things on both sides. The Thunder, we know how elite their defense has been. This is one of the greatest defenses we've seen in a very, very long time. You know, their game plan is really, we're going to go out, we're going to cause chaos. We're going to force turnovers, get out of transition, and get easy baskets. That's how we play on defense. While the Pacers are a team that, you know, that's very different from the teams the Thunder have played so far in this playoffs, where the Pacers don't have a true number one guy that's like an Anthony Edwards, you know, like a Nikola Jokic, you know, that, you know, okay, this is 1A. This guy's going to be scoring. This guy's going to have the ball 95% of the time, and he's going to do that. The Pacers do have Tyrese Halliburton, who has the ball 90% of the time, but Tyrese Halliburton is not a scoring star like what Ant does and what Jokic does and all that stuff. Halliburton is more of a, you know, facilitate first, and then when I can get my buckets in between, then I can get them, you know, and it also depends on what type of Tyrese Halliburton we're going to get, you know, because the Pacers are going to need an aggressive Tyrese Halliburton for every moment of this series. The moment Tyrese Halliburton doesn't have an aggressive game, like Game 5 against New York and all that stuff, the Pacers are not going to have a chance. Because Tyrese Halliburton needs to be on point, be a star, be aggressive, any single chance they get. Because the Pacers are going to need all the scoring and all the opportunities they can get in this series, you know? So the Thunder is going to be very interesting to see how they guard Tyrese. You know, I assume Lou Dort's probably going to get that assignment on Tyrese. And very interested to see how physical they are with him. You know, if they can, you know, be physical with him and guard him and not let him really be able to score, be able to even get to the paint, to drive and kick, you know, which is what the Pacers run on. And the Pacers are a team that, again, they move the ball around a lot. You know, it's a lot of ball movement, a lot of finding the open man, all that stuff. So I'm very interested to see how the Thunder kind of slow that down in terms of, you know, can they get into the passing lanes, you know, cause a lot of chaos, force the turnovers. The Pacers are not a very high turnover team because Tyrese Halliburton has the ball a lot. And Tyrese Halliburton is not a guy that puts his team in a bad position, and it's not a guy that's going to turn the ball over that often. So so I'm interested to see how OKC is able to flip that on the Pacers maybe and try to get in those passing lanes and force Indiana to maybe, if OKC can force Indiana to take an extra second to think, then that works in the Thunder's favor. Looking at defensive matchups in this series, I assume Lou Dort probably gets the Halliburton assignment, and I assume maybe does J-Dub get the Pascal assignment down along the paint, or do they give it to one of the big men? I assume they probably give it to one of the big men, unless they want to put like Chet on Aaron Nesmith or something, you know, or I don't know. I assume maybe Chet or Hartenstein gets the Pascal assignment, the other one kind of roams over to help. So that means Miles Turner's probably going to get a lot of easy shots, and Miles Turner has to probably have a good offensive series in this one. But of course, every one of the Pacers does, you know. The bench could be a very interesting battle. The Pacers have a lot of guys like T.J. McConnell, Obi Toppin, Ben Mathurin. You know, they're okay with running a 10-man rotation, guys coming off the bench and being able to, you know, score. And Thunder also have a really good bench. You have Alex Caruso coming off the bench, Casey Wallace. Those two coming off the bench are amazing. Jalen Williams might get some minutes in this series. Kenny Hustle maybe get some minutes. Aaron Wiggins probably get some minutes. So if the Pacers can be able to maybe put in more offensive production, it's gonna be a battle of offense versus defense. The Pacers have a lot of offensive production off that bench with TJ, Obi, Ben Mathurin could give you 30 something points, combined of 40 points in games. While the Thunder maybe don't have necessarily the offensive production they do, they make up for it on the defense. Caruso and Case Wallace, what they do on the defensive end, and in terms of hustle and energy and winning plays, makes up maybe for a lot of the scoring lack that they have. So I think the battle of the benches, who can make the bigger impact, obviously can be a thing to watch in this series. Looking at the other side, how are the Pacers going to guard OKC? Who's guarding Shea? Is it going to be Nesmith or Nembhard? Nesmith has an ankle injury. He's got a couple of days off, so we don't know how that ankle injury looks now. But Nembhard also, he took over at the end of Game 6 on Jalen Brunson. But Shea is a way different player than Jalen Brunson. Shea is, he's not a little point guard. He's a 6'5", 2 with size and length that can get to any spot he really wants to. So, and if you be physical with him, he gets a great whistle a lot of times too. That's something you have to talk about. So it's gonna be interesting to see what the Pacers strategy is against OKC. They probably run some zone. I think you probably have to kind of run some zone a little bit. You've seen in the past few series against Denver and against Minnesota, they've ran zone a couple times, and sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't worked. So, I'm kind of looking at the Pacers defense and see one who guards Shea, because let's say you put Nesmith on Shea, Nembhard, does he guard Lu Dort? Well, he probably put Tyrese on Lu Dort, so that means who guards J-Dub? Does Nembhard guard J-Dub? I don't know if the body matchup, so maybe you put Nesmith on J-Dub, and you sacrifice Nembhard putting a smaller defender on Shea. So I don't know. And then probably Pascal gets Chet, I assume. So that defensive matchup is going to be interesting. And if the Pacers are going to be able to run a zone at some points, you saw a little bit in the Cavs series where they were able to run. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The Cavs ran the zone on the Pacers. I'm sorry. That's my fault. But yeah, so we'll see how that, if they do run zone, and if they do go man, how that would work for OKC's defense. I think some X factors in the series for the Thunder. I think it's gonna. I mean, obviously J-Dub and Chet are the simple answers, but it really is true. Like you saw in the Minnesota series, J-Dub and Chet had probably their best games of the postseason, and those games, that Game 4, you reference where Minnesota won every statistical category. They had 4 guys, like they had McDaniels, DiVincenzo, Nikhil step up, all have 20+ points. Minnesota probably should have won that game if you look at just the numbers and the box score. But OKC's big 3 and Shea, Chet, J-Dub, specifically Chet and J-Dub, had their best playoff games ever, and they were able to win that game. And Chet and J-Dub has had some big moments in that series. And in this series where J-Dub's probably maybe can get a smaller matchup in Nembhard or against a Nesmith who's now 100% healthy, J-Dub's going to have that big moments in this series. Obviously, again, also with the Indiana Pacers being a high-scoring team, the Pacers are going to get their buckets. No matter how elite the OKC Thunder defense is, I expect Indiana to still be able to put up points because that's just what they do. Great offense beat great defense every single day of the week. So OKC is going to need as much offense production as they possibly can, and J-Dub is going to have big games, 20-something, 30, maybe even 30-point game here or there. Chet Holmgren, I think if he's getting guarded by Miles Turner or Pascal Siakam, Chet has the potential to be able to have a big series, I think, in this one. Not saying that Pascal and Miles Turner are bad defenders at all, but just, I don't know, with Chet Holmgren being able to, I think Chet Holmgren really unlocks his team. If he can provide what he does do what he does on the defensive end, we know what he can do there. And I think his rim protection is going to be big in this series. The Pacers being a team that, can score a lot at the paint, and has been able to win the matchup of points in the paint. Both these teams kind of do. Both these teams have been able to win the points in the paint matchup and get the easy buckets. So rim protection is going to be a big factor in this series on both sides. But for OKC, if they're going to get what they can get from Chet defensively, if Chet can have a good offensive series as well, that could put the cherry on top of it. For Indiana, I really do believe it's Tyrese Halliburton. Like, I really do believe Tyrese Halliburton being able to be aggressive in this series, and Tyrese Halliburton being able to have 20, 25-point games potentially, and just be willing to take shots, willing to get to the paint, willing to get to the free throw line, and opening up his offensive scoring game, that makes the Pacers a way better team. So I think him, I think knocking down open shots too for Indiana, which is something that they've been able to do. OKC's a team that's willing to give up sometimes the corner three. You know, as long as it's not the star player shooting the ball 100 times or not getting easy layups, we're okay. We're living with them shooting the corner. And the Pacers are a team that has been able to kill teams so far this postseason by hitting those shots. Guys like Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard hitting those shots. So those three are really going to have to be on their A game and knock down their shots because OKC is going to be able to allow them to allow them to shoot the ball sometimes. I feel like especially Miles Turner. You know, with how Pascal, how dominant he's been, and how much they kind of want to protect the rim with Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, especially they don't have, I mean, they have good lateral movement, I guess, but with Pascal being in the paint, I think Miles Turner is probably going to have a lot of open shots in this series. And he's going to have to knock down some shots. And if you can't knock down shots, then maybe you go small, I guess. You put Pascal, maybe you throw Obi Toppin in there. A guy that you maybe feel more confident in shooting the ball, potentially, and more athleticism on the court and stuff, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, thinking about different matchups and different things like that. Indiana's defense, how they gonna be able to match up? I already talked about their matchup with Shea and their zone and stuff. Indiana's also been a team that's been able to get out in transition and run. They're going to run off and made baskets and stuff. So OKC's transition defense, you know, with how elite this defense is, can OKC's transition defense limit Indiana's transition offense? Because if OKC is able to get back defensively, which I think they probably can because they're an elite defensive team that, you know, great communication. It's rare to see them have a defensive mistake and multiple defensive mistakes in games. Like if OKC can limit the Pascal Siakam transition runs, the get the ball up the court and get a corner three wide open sometimes. You know, if they're able to limit that, then that's going to be huge in their favor as well because that going to force Indiana to have to really play in the, you know, not be able to play with pace, be able to play slow. And if they're able to play slow, that's what OKC wants. If OKC is able to control the pace in this series and be able to have to play kind of a slowish game, which OKC is not a great half-court team in itself, but be able to, I think it's maybe a better thing to be able to slow down Indiana's pace, you know, and do that rather than get into a half-court type of situational, or I think it's more, you know, it's better for them to have to sacrifice being a half-court offense team than to give up the Indiana Pacers transition, because I feel more confident in us and OKC, if I'm OKC, be able to have to try to score in the half court and have Shea and J-Dub go get buckets in the half court than giving up, you know, 20 transition points to Indiana and give up easy Pascal Siakam layups and easy Andrew Nembhard corner threes and on the fast break and all that stuff. I'm willing to do that. So, yeah, I think the transition defense is going to be big in this series on both sides. Because, again, OKC's another team that they get on transition and they be able to, they kill. That's how they kill you. Transition. Get a turnover, route, run in transition. We're getting easy layups, easy layup, easy layup. We're getting 20 to 25 easy transition, fast break points per game, points off turnovers per game. And that's what's going to kill you. Add on to Shea be able to get 30. And if J-Dub and Chet are having big nights, you're not going to win. So both teams' transition defense is going to be very something to watch in this series. Ultimately, my thinking of what this series could be, this definitely could be a quick series. And I'm predicting kind of a quicker series. But Indiana, you know, Indiana's a team of miracles. That's what's happened this entire postseason. They've had so many insane moments and miracle type of games that maybe I can't rule out Indiana 100%. You know, I'm still think OKC. I've said it since the game 7 against Denver. You know, and Minnesota, the Minnesota series backed it up. This OKC team is the best team in the league. They've shown they're the best team in the league, and they are probably going to win the NBA championship. There's just a different level of monster. You know, they're a team we're going to look back on in a couple years and be like, dang, that team was really freaking good. So ultimately, I'm going OKC in 5. I think Indiana absolutely can win a game in this series because it's just liable to happen that OKC is going to have a night where nothing's going, and it's liable that Indiana's going to have a night where they just shoot the lights out, hit 23s. You know, it's just going to happen, I feel like, in one of these games. So I'm going to go OKC in 5. Not saying that Indiana is a bad team at all or that, you know, Indiana's going to get washed. But it just shows, I think, OKC is just really that good. That any other year, I feel like Indiana will have a really good shot at this. But OKC is just such a good team. You know, with the defense, I trust OKC's defense. If there's one thing I trust, it's that OKC is going to be able to have an elite defense and force turnovers, you know? And if they're able to do that against an Indiana team that, has a lot of ball movement and all that stuff and tries to get everybody involved and is going to probably make some passes sometimes, then I trust OKC a lot there. I don't know I can't really say how much Tyrese Halliburton is going to be able to really have big games in this series with OKC's defense. And if they play physical with them, and Lu Dort and all those guys and Caruso and them really guard up, and Case and Wallace and all that stuff really guard up and make it hard for Tyrese Halliburton to get off in this series, I don't think the Pacers have a chance. If Tyrese Halliburton's not able to have any big nights, and OKC's really, keeping them in this little box, Pacers aren't going to have a chance to win a single game. So I'm trusting OKC. I think they're going to be able to win. Do I care if they win? No, I just want to see finals basketball. I'm excited for the NBA Finals. You should be excited too because we're down to our last two teams, and this should be some fun. I expect some big games. I don't expect blowouts and, well, maybe a blowout here or there is going to come, but I don't expect OKC to just run through Indiana, like win by 25 every game, like what they did with Minnesota. I expect at least one or two close games because, again, Indiana's going to be able to put up points. That's what they do. Indiana's going to score, and I don't think OKC could stop. OKC's not going to force Indiana to like 80 points. Like, I don't think that's going to be able to happen. If they do that, then that's just, that just gives more credit to their elite defense. But Indiana's going to be able to put up points in this series. That's just is going to happen. So I assume that there's going to be a game or two, especially maybe early on in the series, where it's going to come down to the final few minutes. And in those final few minutes, it's just going to be about who do you trust more, and who's going to make the right plays and make the winning plays. So I'm very excited for this series. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think about this series, different matchups, different things you want to see, your prediction for the series, and all that stuff. And yeah, finals start tomorrow. Can't wait. But yeah, it's gonna be today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really helps out a lot. Once again, we're very, very close to 1,000 subscribers. So all support on our channel be very much appreciated. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.